lovely people, and a very warm welcome to another mixed media tutorial with me, Lisa Taggart. And this week I'm delighted to be using some of the new release stamps from the Twilight Tea collection. I'm calling this project Twilight Wood, and it's very much another multimedia adventure. And if you're interested in how this little piece was created, let's begin. I'm starting off with a piece of Lavinia Stamp's hot press watercolour card, 9 by 8 inches, and I'm inking up this lovely tree stamp with the olive in the Elements ink pad. I thought I would do sort of a misty tree first of all and drop it back to the background, and then I'm using Shady Lane to ink up this tree, but actually in the end I'd recommend that you use Shady Lane for both trees, and you'll see why as I develop the project. Moving on then to the glorious little acorn house, and I'm just popping a piece of copy paper in front of the trunk there just to mask it off, and now I'm going to use the masking fluid and paint that on and wait for it to dry. Next up, I'm taking the little teapot and popping that in the background there, and once I take a baby wipe and wipe away the ink, you'll see that the acorn is in the foreground and so forth. Next then, I'll take the lovely new branch that we have, which will be very useful indeed, and I want to pop a couple of the little acorn dwellings hanging off that. I'm using Nocturne for this centerpiece just to bring it forward a little bit and make it a wee bit deeper. And there we are. I'm also going to mask those off by painting on the masking fluid and waiting for it to dry. Also stamped the little hedgehog, there he is, one of my favourites, and I masked that off too. So the next thing is the teapot. I love this one, the dotty teapot, it's glorious. And I've stamped that then on the background, using a bit of copy paper again to mask off the bottom of the little mouse, and we have him poking out the top. And I think then I take the lid, yes, and stamp that as if the little mouse is popping up the teapot lid, and there we are. Going to fill that in with masking fluid as well, so that we have it all. I also then stamped off camera this little squirrel and masked him off as well, and he's popped there on top having a look at the mouse and the little acorn dwellings, and I think that's our central composition complete. So just finishing off the trees now, and I'm back to Shady Lane, which is the Versafine Clair, and I'm going to pop that tree there, and I think I also use the olive again, but again I would recommend you use just the Shady Lane for both. And as I say, you'll see why. It's one of these adventures that you learn as you go along. So just using my water brush there to fill that in. And next up then we have these spring trees, and what I've done is I've angled some copy paper diagonally across there so that the bottoms of the trees are cut off, and I've positioned some copy paper in the foreground as well, and now angling up the other side, and it's sort of giving the impression that the trees are stamped in a hill formation. Now they don't make much sense at the moment, and I'm there using the top of the tree for extra branches at the top and masking that off again. But once I now dry it off first of all, and then take a baby wipe and wipe away the ink off the foreground pieces, then it makes more sense, and all of a sudden you have background trees, then distant trees. So there we are. So next up then, I think I'm going to do some painting, and I also masked off the tree at the end. Taking Sundance, I've popped the colour into the lids of these element ink pads, taking my water brush and adding some water to the page first of all so I can blend the colours together. And as I normally do, I'm starting off with a pale colour for the centre, and do love the Sundance colour, just to create some kind of a focal point where the little creatures and the little dwellings are in the centre of the page. So this bit of yellow light will draw your eye in, hopefully, to the centrepiece. And also add a little bit of reflection there towards the foreground, and all the while I'm blending and lightly pressing my water brush there just to release some water. And it's a handy thing to use, I find. So you can use an ordinary paintbrush, of course, with some water to the side, but it speeds things up for me if I've got the water already in the paintbrush. Now, as you can see, I've moved on to the Bermuda colour and blending it into Sundance and squeezing some water there so it blends nicely. If you find that you've squeezed too much water, as I do from time to time, take a kitchen towel and blot it out and squeeze it less often. Next then I'm using the lovely olive green colour and blending that into the Bermuda. And it's just a graduation with the light going then darker and deeper, where you would get the forest leaves on the trees, etc. And as you can see, the background trees that I stamped originally in the olive elements ink are now faded too much, unfortunately, into the background. And I was a wee bit worried this might happen, so that's why I suggest that you use the shady lane for stamping both trees. But not to worry, I'm going to restore those later on, and I'm not concerned about it at this stage. So next up then we've got Blue Lagoon, which is a fantastic colour to mix with the greens and add some vibrancy to the piece as well. Now, you may ask, why am I using watercolour version of the Elements ink rather than just using my stencil brushes or my little smoothies to add the ink? Well, you can of course do that, but it does require quite a lot of expert blending, and I find that this is a very quick and easy and scruffy way to lay the colour down, because if you know me by now, you know that I work in underlayers quite a lot, which means you do put a scruffy basic colour mix down, and then you augment that later on using other materials. So it's a nice colour mix, and I'm happy enough with it so far, and I'm gradually deepening it up as I go along. You can see there I've also added some shadowy grassy areas in the foreground, and when I did that my brush wasn't so wet, and this created almost like a dry brush effect, which was serendipitous indeed, because it looks much better that way. And sometimes you just have to go with what happens, and that's the whole adventure side of things, that really sometimes pictures take on a life of their own, and it's nothing to do with us. So do enjoy what happens as you go along and just roll with it. So carrying on deepening, and I'm using dark denim at this stage just to do the top edges, not all of it, just the side bits and a wee bit in the centre, and all the while thinking about the branches and the leaves, and deepening up sort of like a background, creating a background forest effect. So there you are. And now then the foreground. And the important thing about the foreground and why I want it to be reasonably deep around the edges is that I'm also going to use pan pastels in this project to add a touch of colourful magic, hopefully. And for the pan pastels to work effectively, they do need a layer of colour underneath. I find they don't work terribly well, for example, on top of white paper. So I'm going to be deepening around the edges at the bottom and creating little colourful dark mounds for them to later be placed on top of, and they pop a lot better with the dark colour underneath. So that's what I'm doing. Next up we've got Della Blue, which is a lovely transition colour between the dark and the green in the centre. It doesn't really look much difference now, but when you see me go over the top there, it's less stark than the dark denim, and it's one of my favourite colours, and I always like to use it anyway. Next up, olive, again building up the dark colours, and this is mixing with the dark denim and creating a darker or green, which is lovely. And just thinking about sort of foreground grasses and whatever really. And if it gets too wet, you can again, as I say, use a kitchen towel to dampen it down a little bit. And it's just to create a layer very quickly. So there you are, and now it's dry. I've stamped back those trees using Shady Lane, and they look a lot better now that they're back. Hello trees, welcome back. And I'm going to now take my stencil brush to do some extra deepening now that the picture is completely dry. And I'm really just going over the same areas that I did with when using the paintbrush, and just popping the dark denim in those areas again. So that's it, and I'm now going to remove the masking fluid from the foreground trees there, the two main trees at the front, because I want them to almost act as a frame to the center images, and so I want them to be quite dark. And taking my denim blue again and just sweeping that across the tree, and of course having used the Shady Lane Versafine Clair, that's a permanent ink and doesn't, unlike the other one, wear away. So I gradually built that up. I think I might have added a wee darker colour there to the edge as well. And I've also taken the masking fluid off everything else. And we have our background colours in place. So before I move on, what I thought I would do is strengthen up some of the little skinny trees in the background, and where maybe I want some extra trees, I'm adding some lines using my Zig Clean Colour marker, and it's like a cool mid-tone brown. I will provide the numbers for these pens, so look out for that. You could stamp as well if it's still masked, but I'm confident enough just to draw a few wee lines here and there. It's just straight lines, and it just does give the impression of an extension to this little background forest. So that's it. And I think now I'm taking the same colours again in the Element ink pads, and I'm going to do a very similar thing with the little foreground images. I'm going to use the same colours in virtually the same order. And I'm thinking here where the sun or the light from the centre might hit some of these images, and it'll really just be at the edges. The thing about Twilight, particularly when it's you've just got sort of a forest canopy, and then you've just got a little bit of light peeking through, that all the 3D images in front of that will be dark. So I have that in mind, that in order, although it's very tempting to colour these in all sort of pretty bright colours, ultimately they are going to be mainly in silhouette against the light. So I'm going to gradually deepen them up using the same order of colours that I used for the background, and you'll see how then it gives them dimension. And it also keeps in mind where the yellow light might be hitting them as well. And it's a quicker way, I suppose, as well to colour them in, and it also helps with the colour harmony of the picture. If you just paint on the same colours as in the background, it just you get a more coherent look to the piece. And later on I'm going to augment this with a couple of the Zig Clean Colour markers as well, just to add a few extra wee bits. But essentially I'm using the same as the background colours here. And going on then to the deepest colour, dark denim, and adding that to the very edges and the parts that are probably not being hit by any light at all. So they're the deepest parts. and then right in the front of the acorns, and that just gives then the 3D effect more than just colouring them in nice light colours, although it's tempting. So there we have our little squirrel and our little hedgehog, looking very cute. And I wonder who lives where, or if they're gate crashing, or what they're up to. The pesky mouse is probably taken over. I'm not sure it's his house at all, but we'll see. So dry that off, and then I've taken another, well, I think it's the same Zig Clean Colour marker in that mid-tone cool brown, and deepening further the parts that really aren't going to be hit by the light at all, and adding in sort of the shadows and that sort of thing, having fun. And it's very quick to do. You just have to think where the darkest areas might be, where the shadow areas might be. A little bit under his chin, and then at the bottom there of his tail, at the back of the teapots and so forth, and underneath in the bottom. And then you can blend that out either with another pale coloured Zig marker or the water brush again. I think I've just used the water brush, but you can also use, there's a clear Zig marker which is very good for blending if you have one of those. So next up then, it's the lovely white gel pen, which of course has to feature somewhere, and here it is, adding in some extra little highlights and light coming from the various little windows. Not too much, just a tad here and there, but particularly on the little teapot. And now I've got like a sort of tanny coloured Zig Clean Colour marker, and I thought the squirrel might need a little bit of red, not too red, but just enough just to bring his colour out. And I thought I would add a few more bits to what's around just for colour harmony. And then we're at the pastel stage, but before I do that off camera, what I did was I took the yellow gel pen, and a Posca pen would do for this as well, and added a few wee highlights, similar places to where the white went, as you can see there, just to light up around some of the images. And I also took this reddy pinky colour and added a touch of it here and there, just to lift the colour. I didn't want it to be too flat, so that made it pop a little bit better. And now we're using the pastels. First of all, turquoise, one of my favourites, and I'm just dabbing it and adding some light or some mist into the leaves, and just see what happens. It also creates texture, additional texture, and it's a good way to blend the painting, which was rather rough underneath, by just taking your pan pastel and lightly dabbing it on wherever you fancy, really. So the turquoise is a good colour to have. Next is permanent green. And if you have pastels, just use the colours that you have. It doesn't have to be exactly the same colours as I'm using. If you have something similar, or you have pastel pencils, you could of course use those as well, or pastel sticks. Or you could miss out this layer altogether. It's up to you. I always like to do a little layer of pastel, and make sure, of course, before you do this, that the picture is completely dry. Otherwise it'll be a bit more difficult to add the pastel. So what I'd thought was I created a series of little circular mounds in the front, and I thought I'll fill these little mounds up with colour. Next is bright yellow green, which is a lovely colour to help things pop and add a little bit of sunlight. It's very similar to yellow, but obviously it has a touch of green as well. It's a lovely one to use, a lovely one to have in your pan pastel arsenal. Just adding some light here and thereabouts that would be peeking through from the background. And next up then, this is Diarylite Yellow, which is quite a strong yellow, but I'm adding it and then I'm going to mix it with other colours. So this is the good thing about pan pastels, is that you can mix them on the page, and I do this quite a lot. So that's the first base, and then I think I take some titanium white. Yes, there it is, and I'm just mixing that on top. And if you're unhappy with some part of the picture that you think you want a little bit more misty, or you want to tone back the colour, the titanium white is a useful one just to pop on top. Now you think I've gone mad because I'm putting magenta everywhere. And don't worry, it's all going to be toned down in a minute or two. But I just liked the reddy colour in the acorn, and I thought I would just mirror that with this magenta and some of the extra dark ultramarine, and then just the ordinary ultramarine in the foreground as well. And just popping it wherever I fancy, really, in little colourful mounds, just to add a touch of colour magic really to the picture that can look a little bit flat if it's all one tone, but of course we're trying to create some magic, so we must brighten it up a little bit with some extra colour here and there. And if things, you can always rub this off if things don't go as you would like. And there's a putty eraser that you can purchase as well, which takes the colour away, and I use this as well from time to time, quite a lot. It's good for blending as well, although I'm using this little applicator for some blending, and it's doing a good job there. So it's all blended now, and it just added a little something. And here's another trick as well. If you've got the Versamark ink, and I'll just show you this quickly, and you stamp with it, and then you take the pan pastel and then rub that on top, you get this sort of ethereal foliage type thing like that, which is fun to do. So I'm not going to do it for the whole picture, but I thought I would show you that if you want to add some sort of dreamy foliage into the background that has some sort of opacity, that's a good way of doing it. And I'm using another little foliage, and use your favourite tiny stamps for all of this. It's a good way to get them out and add some texture. And that was turquoise on top of that, and a few there done with the ordinary Hansa yellow, I think it is. So there you see what that looks like, and it was really just to show you as a technique. But I'm now going to spray that with some fixative, because it makes it a lot easier to stamp on top of. And I'm taking some of my favourite smaller stamps, and I'm going to pop these all over the foreground, so that I have a nice base to take out my Posca acrylic markers and do a ton of colouring in, which is what I usually do at the end of my pictures. And it just is a great way to add images that enables you then to pick out the shapes when you're colouring. And these are lovely little mushrooms. I think they're called mushies, and they were from the the gardening release that was a few months back, and they are very fun to use, I'm finding, and I've popped rather a lot of them in this picture. But as I say, it's a good way of having something then just to colour in. And then I'm using the tall mushrooms, and I'm all the while thinking I don't want them all the same direction. I'll angle some of them and have different heights just to create extra additional interest. So it's now dry, all the little stamps, and do just use your favourite tiny stamps and whatever you like to use. Doesn't have to be the same as this. And that means then you can take gel pens, you can take Posca pens, sparkle pens, and I know there's a sparkle Posca pens as well, and just colour in, pick out the little shapes, and add your own little dots and dashes and little touches here and there with extra colour. So I'm not going to film all of my colouring because it does take a long time to colour all these little bits and pieces, but it's very relaxing, and this is the fun part really. And just take your time doing a nice mix of colour, and you know, just pick your favourite colours, your favourite shapes, and have a lovely relaxing time. Now I'm just adding some yellow. I think yellow and white with all the different colours is always very important, and just have a nice mix of colour. And of course then add the obligatory dots and dashes and a few little dotty highlights in the centre of the pastel at the top. Gives the impression of little twinkly lights. So I'm going to finish all that off, and that's the picture finally complete with all the little coloured bits. And there you can see I've gone nuts and just used my Posca pens and coloured everything in, and it's really not as complicated as it looks. I've also then put a few touches in the sky, or the tree canopy as well, and a few bits of Posca where the doors are and the little houses as well, just so that they show up a little bit better. And now I'm taking some Stickles. Now you can use your colour of choice. I think this one is Waterfall, but you can of course use whatever you have and whatever glitter of choice. And when you're making a magical little scene, I think some sparkle always helps, doesn't it? Just putting it on the edges and onto the little mushies and a few dots and some bits around the edges and so forth, so it twinkles in the twilight. So I hope you enjoyed this week's project. I hope you managed to get hold of some of the new release stamps, which are beautiful, and I hope this gave you inspiration for creating something of your own. I hope also you enjoyed the techniques involved and will use them in your own projects. So until next time, take very good care of yourselves, but of course, above all, get creating, be brave, and do enjoy the adventure.